What are you made of? How to turn your setbacks into rocket fuel. What's up, guys? This is the Digital Agency Hacker Podcast. I'm here with my man, MikeC-Roc, to talk to us about how to turn, again, your setbacks into rocket fuel. So let's, without hesitation, jump right into our conversation. All right, what's up, guys? Got my friend MikeC-Roc. C-Roc in the house today. What's going on, brother?
What's up, JC? Thanks for having me, man. I'm fired up to share some stuff with your audience and you and your team, man.
Yeah, me too, dude. I think right now what you talk about, what you focus on is freaking huge. You got to be a busy person right now. You focus on helping people overcome, helping people turn problems, disaster, complexity, all this stuff into momentum. So I want to dive right in, bro. You asked the question, what are you made of? So I want to stop there. What are you made of? Tell me your background, how you got started, and let's just dive right in.
Well, first of all, you know when people have setbacks and they get stuck in them and they have that hopeless feeling.
Yeah.
And they can't see their way out and everything just becomes less interesting and they just feel like a victim and they feel like things are piling up on them. I'm the guy they call in to fix that. And my specialty and my dominating rule in my life is to turn all setbacks, letdowns, difficulties, even including people, into rocket fuel for your future. And JC, I say rocket fuel because regular fuel does not get you to orbit. Mm-hmm. I'm not a rocket scientist, but I know that rocket fuel is the only thing that I know of that gets rockets into orbit. And when I talk about orbit, everything is symbolism to me. Yeah. Orbit to me is where we all are shooting for. We're all trying to get out of gravitational pull. And gravitational pull is things that are pulling you back down to earth, things that are making you hopeless, things that are just in your way, roadblocks. People, I say people a lot of times because a lot of people don't realize that the people around them are the ones holding them back. And so I talk about orbit because we got to get into orbit, away from gravitational pull. And when we're in orbit, then we're dealing with not other people's problems. We get the opportunity to pick our problems that we work on. And you always want to have problems to work on because that's what gives us purpose in life. So I don't like to get rid of problems, but I like to be able to choose the problems I want to work on. And so that's my mission. And, I'll get in deeper if you want my background and my story, but I just want to give your take on that.
Yeah, brother, that's huge, man. I think, I look at even my personal family, right? Like my brother and I grew up in the same house and he went through that struggle. And what motivated me different? We grew up in the same freaking home, right? And he went through a lot of trials and tribulations. And finally now in the last 2 years has like caught this momentum, right? And it's incredible. I think, it's mindset, it's training, it's developing, it's all this good stuff. So what started this? I want to go back to the background because this is a big, a challenge. It's a big mission. It's hard taking on the burden of these, of people when they're struggling. Right. So what's the foundation in this? Where did this all come from?
Well, first of all, you know what they say, anything that's worth doing isn't going to be easy. And, I don't want it to be easy. I wanted to be challenged. And, there's times where I'm like, man, do I really want to do this? Like yesterday, for example, I was dealing with something with an employee and she was having issues and then it was coming out into our work and it was coming out to other employees as far as the energy. And I had to have a talk. And afterwards, I'm just like, man, do I really want to deal with this? If I can't do it in my own organization and don't want to, am I going to be able to go out to the world? But, obviously then I saw the results of what I did with her and had the talk that I had with her. And I'm like, yeah, this is what it's all about, baby. Yeah. So it takes you back to early 80s, mid 80s when I was 11 years old. I came from a broken home. I don't remember my family together. And when I tell this story, it's hard to tell this story without like airing some dirty laundry of my family, but it's okay because it's for a bigger purpose and I'm not putting anybody down. But when I was 8, I decided to live with my dad and I was there for 3 years. And, when you have step parents and child support and custody issues and conflict and everything's around and jealousy issues and all these things that are spiraling around above you as a kid, it really has an effect on you. Yeah. And so I dealt with that for years and I thought it was all normal. I thought it was an ordinary life. Like that's what kids go through. This is what you're supposed to do. Go to, the family, the mom and dad's house every other weekend stuff. And, I didn't know any better. And so after 3 years of living with my dad, and going through a lot of emotional and psychological abuse and having things I felt taken out on me, I said, this is enough, man. I got to get out of here. So my mom found out through just watching, observing how I was acting, and basically gave me the Grand Inquisition. And I admitted that what was going on and what was bothering me. And she said, that's not normal. You're not supposed to go through that kind of stuff. That's not normal. That's not like, a great environment to grow up in. Now, I'll do whatever you want, she said. But if you want, I'll file the court papers to get you out of there. So she did that. And in the meantime, I'm waiting for them to land on my dad, right? And I go to school one day, come home, and he has these court papers in his hand. And he says, go in your room, man. So I walked back there and sat there for about 5 minutes. It felt like 5 hours. And he comes in. And by the way, my dad was my hero. So my dad is a very hard worker, Mason. He's in his 60s now. Unfortunately, I don't get to see him as much as I'd want to. And I have no hard feelings, by the way, towards anything I'm about to tell you. I'm thankful that I went through this stuff, but he was a Mason. You see the bricks in the background here. And his forearms were real big and his hands were rough. And I always looked up to him for that, man. And I always looked up to him. He always had $100 wad of bills in his pocket, $100 bill wad or whatever you want to call it, a knot with a rubber band around it. And I always looked up to him for that. I thought it was cool. He used to flash it. Now, when he found out about these court papers, he asked me, he's like, is this what you really want? Your dad, your stepdad and your mom don't have it well down there. They don't really have any money. That's what you want to live in. You want to live in that environment. And I remember my mom telling me, stick to your guns when you believe in something, because when you really believe in something, people will try to talk you out of it or guide you in a different road to make themselves feel better or get what they want. So I remember she said, stick to your guns. So I shook my head and was brave and said, yeah, this is what I want. And he said, okay. So he takes the wad of $100 bills out, peels a $100 bill off, crumples it up and throws it at me and says, you're going to need this when you're living on the streets with your mother then. And, 11 years now, I'm not 18 at this point. I'm 11. Now, I'm stubborn to a fault. See, stubborn can be an asset and it can be a liability. Your assets in your life, your strengths can also be your liabilities and your weaknesses. Right. But, at that moment I said, you know what? I ain't going to need that money. I'm going to win this one. And it's the other thing I thought to my head was, remember, I thought this was an ordinary scenario. I thought all kids go through this. There's got to be some other people out there going through this right now. And I'm going to be a role model and show them that you can go through something like this and still exceed expectations and still excel. So that's what I thought at that moment. And for the rest of my life until about, until I turned about 40, I started thinking during that period of time, I was always driving off of that. When I tried to do something good in school or sports or lifting or tough times, I always used that as fuel to keep going. But when I was 40, I realized, wait a minute. I really became aware of what was going on now. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, man, I should bottle this. I need to bottle this because other people need this stuff, not just to be a role model, but now it's time to take the next step and help people. So I started thinking, okay, what do I do all the time? I talk to myself all the time. I'm built for this. I got this. What are you made of, man? Let's go. Look at all the stuff you've been through. You've already been to court and legal stuff. You've been a child psychologist when you were little to see if you were competent enough to make a decision where you wanted to live. You've been through all this stuff. The stuff that you're going through in business and with employees and all this stuff right now is nothing compared to that. You got this. So that's where What Are You Made Of came from. I named the podcast that because I want to share my story. I want to hear what people are made of, what fuels them. And so that's where that came from. And then also the dominating rule of turning setbacks and everything that's negative that would usually hold you back, make you hopeless, turn it into rocket fuel for your future.
Yeah. I think we grew up actually in fairly similar situations. And I remember finally when it dawned on me actually how lucky I was that I experienced both of those, right? So I grew up in a home where my dad went to church every Sunday, and I grew up in a home where never went to church, right? I grew up in a home where there was cursing, yelling, and all this, and then the opposite, right? And so the day I figured out that, man, like there's so many things I don't have to experience because I experienced them through my parents was like groundbreaking for me, right? Like it was like my wife and I think have a great marriage, not because one marriage was amazing and one it's because I experienced both, right? Like those kids that grow up in the perfect home or like, dude, they don't know anything in my mind, right? Like we even got team members here, that come from very, very wealthy families. They're very different breeds than those that overcame, right? Like they're fighters, man. They like I don't know if I could say this, but my single moms on my team, dude, they got this like willpower that like, dude, I don't mess with it. You know what I'm saying?
That's the kind of employees that I look for. Willful employees, right? Skill you can teach.
Yeah.
If they're not willing, then you're not going anywhere with them.
So right now, let's kind of move forward here, because we have right now a lot of people going through chaos, right? So it's not families, it's the economy, it's loss of clients, loss of revenue. People where, us entrepreneurs, we're prideful, right? Like we're killing it. We don't need anyone. What do you feel is like the first step of like turning that mindset from, woe is me to, okay, how do I make this into power? What are some of the first things that you can start doing?
Well, first of all, this doesn't just pertain to COVID. COVID's just a big example because it's been blasted out all over the media. There's always been illnesses that kill people and make people sick. This has just been blasted over the media. And because of that, it's there's more attention on it. People are more aware of it. When that happens, it's your choice whether you're going to let it be the reason that you fail or the reason that you succeed. So at any time, even prior to COVID, I could have pointed to millions of things that could have held me back, held my company back, and played the victim role and whined and been hopeless. Okay.
Right.
But we choose to do a different thing, and everything is in our power to determine our destiny. So when COVID happened and I started seeing this stuff on the news, I remember 2008 being in the mortgage business. And by the way, I run a large mortgage group for Nations Lending, all home loans throughout the 50 states. And I went to my team when this started happening and I said, guys, I don't know how bad this is going to get. I don't know any details of it. I know that they're blasting it on the news. And even if it's not as bad as it is, they're going to make it as bad as it is. So right now we're going to all make the decision that this is going to be the reason that we're going to excel, because a lot of other people are going to pull back, contract, play the victim role. And we're not going to be like that. So anybody right now in this meeting, if you're not on board, no personal feelings, but you got to get off the ship, because right now we're about to take a journey and we're going to step up our actions, our attitudes, our efforts. And when we come out of this, we're going to be more powerful and have achieved more than you could imagine. Now, we set 3 records during that first March, April, May for our company. And, I think it all has to do with the way you attack things and how you approach it. And I mean, we could have been just lucky. I don't believe in luck though. So, I mean, I think that people see these things and that people that give control to other people start using luck as a reason for things because they're giving up on themselves. And, but that's just the approach that I would take. And you have a lot of digital marketers on here, right? And entrepreneurs, right? And I wanted to throw this out there real quick. When you're doing these things, to be different when you're pushing out content, share your story. Share what's going on in your life, not to play a victim, but to share with people what's happened, how you overcame it. This will connect you with people like nothing else. Mm-hmm. Most people don't share their story, JC, because they're embarrassed by it. They think it's ordinary, like I did. They think that nobody cares. But the other thing that they do is they underestimate the power to connect and inspire with millions of people by not sharing their story. So that's one tip that I'll give you, because I know this show is about digital marketing. So that's a huge one.
But man, I mean, you're 100% right, dude. I mean, digital marketing as an industry got hit hard. They were one of the ones. Maybe gyms were the hardest hit, but like we got hit pretty hard because we work with all these small businesses that stopped working, right? The dentists, the plumbers, the roofers, and dude, I'm still up 50% year over year, bro. Like we hired 10 people in the last, like this quarter, we had 10 new employees, right? And I think you're right. Like I think there's, with every devastation, there's always opportunity, right? And the reality is, I guess, even if you do pout and complain, I mean, it doesn't help anything. I mean, it's not going to stop you from failing, I guess.
What happened to advertising costs? What happened to advertising costs?
So it depends on the industry, but a lot of industries, the cost went down dramatically.
Yeah. Like I'm talking about digital media and marketing costs.
The cost right? Went down.
Yeah. So if you're a business and you can't do roofs right now, or you can't do gyms right, whatever it is, the question I would always ask people, if I was in your space or anybody that's selling digital marketing or advertising, is to the companies, are you planning on quitting?
Yeah.
And most of the time they're going to be like, hell no, I'm not going to quit. Okay, well, let me give you some advice. Right now, the costs are down. Now's our chance. Now's our chance to grab market share, get on to people's attention, get on their minds. Now's the time. Let's buy as much as we can right now. Invest. If you have to put it on credit cards, do it. Because here's the thing. If you're in business and you have a mission, you need to sell out. Burn the ships. If you're really committed to what you're trying to do, sell out, burn the ships, put it all on credit cards, run the credit cards up, get the
100%.
exposure right now. And then if it doesn't work, guess what? You tried your hardest, and I hope that this isn't something that you did on purpose as being unethical. You might have to wipe your hands, and it is, but you have to do that if you want to be super successful in business. And that's the way to approach a scenario like this, because when costs go down and everybody's running, you're the one that should be running towards it.
100% right, man. So, I mean, we saw this, right? So we actually looked back and we analyzed, we were working with Google. Why didn't we go down? We literally in our agency did not have one game plan. Maybe this was foolish. Maybe we're idiots, right? Which is part of this, right? When your mind changes, like, I'm just going to kill it, I'm going to win. Sometimes you do stupid jump.
Quit.
And dude, we didn't have a game plan for firing people. It's not like we had a game plan for like, okay, who would we let go if we had to, or whose salaries, or how would we cut? That was never even a thing. It was always solution. So every client, we talked to them, okay, how do we shift? How do we rebound? What do we do? And this consultative approach. And when your mind is right, now you start thinking solutions, and it's all solutions. It's never quitting. Right. So how do you, one of the things that I've learned with my coach is that this isn't something you just, when tragedy hits or when frustration or when COVID hits, it's just like, bam, I know how to handle it. You kind of have to train yourself, your mind, to be able to handle this when the times come, right? Yeah. So how do you, when you're working with people, how do you get ready for tough times? How do you train your mind or train your actions or stuff like this to be able to overcome when things hit you?
So I'll tell you a quick story. I've always relied on street smarts. I dropped out of college with a 4.0. I'm a pretty smart guy and book smarts and all that, but I stopped learning after I got out of college and went off of hustle and streetwise and common sense, right? Mm-hmm. But that only gets you so far. So when I hit about 40 years old, I said, you know what? I'm hitting a ceiling here. What's going on, man? I got to figure something out. And I realized that street smarts only get you so far. At some point, you need to start putting in some knowledge, some book smarts, some mentors, some coaches. And that pushes you over to the next level. When you have street smarts and book smarts together, man, you can go to orbit. And the thing is that you can't just have book smarts because there's no action with book smarts. Street smarts is where the action and the hustle is. So to me, I think that, always having that action, put an action in place constantly. But one thing I did in 2008 that I recommend everybody doing that prepared me for this time here is I journaled things that were going on, and I was very observant about what things were going on. I didn't put my head down in the sand. I kept looking around, looking at politicians, looking at news, media, people around me. I looked and saw what they were doing, and I kept notes of it. And so that when this next thing happened or anything that came about, I had no idea when it was going to be or what it was going to be, but I just knew that I was going to be prepared the next time so that I could expand and blow up. And I get this a lot. I mean, I noticed this. I was doing this all along, but wasn't really aware of it. And Grant Cardone wrote a book about if you're not first, you're last. And in that book, he talked about back in 2008, the lessons that he learned and the fact that he wasn't prepared at that time. And the next time it came, he was going to be prepared. And here I did this in 2008 and 2009, the same thing. I wasn't on the same level as he was or where he is now, but I did the same principles and kept the same principles. And that's what it is. It's all about, learning from your past and being ready for the next time something comes to really attack.
I love it, bro. I love it. Now, you got a book coming out soon, right? So when is it coming out?
It's coming out the end of this year, and pre-sale will start soon. It's called Rocket Fuel, of course. And, to me, I'm so fired up all the time, man. It's because I have a big mission and something that my vision is something that's so big that I'm willing to give things up and sacrifice things to get to. And so my energy never wanes. I'm always, so this rocket fuel is a good word for that and how we turn setbacks into that rocket fuel. So the book's about that. It's about my story, some things that I went through so I could share with people. And also with it, when I have the podcast, I bring special guests on that have been through setbacks and have exploded out of them. And I'm going to share some of their stories in there as well.
I love it, brother. I love it. So book coming out, Q4, pre-release. Where do we sign up? Where do people follow you? Because everyone needs to make sure that they follow you because this is awesome stuff, man, especially in these times.
Thank you. 2 places, Instagram at MikeC-Roc, MikeYCROC. at MikeC-Roc. I answer all my DMs if you reach out to me, but I'm going to be putting a lot of stuff up there, obviously, about the book, and you'll see everything you need there. And then the MikeC-Roc, themikecroc.com is the site that you can go to and check it out.
One last question before we go, and you hinted at it in this last little bit that you spoke of. I always ask every guest, what are you committed to? Like, what's the thing that drives you, right? That one thing, right? And you're speaking a lot of it here, but what's the one purpose of like, man, this is where I'm headed?
My one purpose is to get this message out, because proactiveness is so important in this whole idea of turning setbacks into rocket fuel. When you understand that everything bad that can happen is always followed deep down later on down the road with a bigger win. When you really understand that ahead of time, you start looking for setbacks and problems. And when something comes your way, you might feel a little anxiety at first, a little drop in the heart, kind of upset stomach at first, but then you trigger and you know, okay, wait a minute, something good's going to come from this. Let's see what it is, and let's see how we can fix this problem. I need to get that message out to people. It is so powerful to understand that and be proactive with it and not wait till something happens. And that's my mission.
Love it. Take people, show them what they're made of, and turn it into rocket fuel. I love it. That's right. All right, guys, make sure to follow C-Roc. Brother, it's been it's been a pleasure. I'm excited for you, brother.
JC, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me come on the show. I always like to express gratitude, and if there's anything I can do for you or any of your listeners, just reach out, man. I'd love to help.
Love it. Awesome.